Welcome to the Vue Timeline tutorial. Using the Syncfusion Vue Timeline component, you can display data chronologically, providing a visually engaging and user-friendly experience. You can easily track progress, showcase activities, and depict historical events. In this video, I will show you how to create a Vue project and add the Syncfusion Timeline component to it. Additionally, I will explain how to align and disable the items, change the orientation, and reverse the timeline. Before proceeding, make sure you have installed the latest versions of Vue and Node.js. I'll use Visual Studio Code as my editor and show the output in the Edge browser. To create a project in Vue, open Visual Studio Code and type the command npm create vite at latest. I set my app name as my Vue app. Next, I choose Vue as the framework and JavaScript as the variant. A Vue project is created. I navigate to the newly created application and install the required dependencies using the npm install command. Now the application is configured with the default settings of a Vite project. To use the Syncfusion Vue Timeline component, type the command npm install at syncfusion/ej2 vue layouts -- save to install the layouts package. Next, I must register the trial license key. So I open the main.js file and import the register license method from the Syncfusion ej2 base package. Using this method, I can register the trial license key. For instructions on generating a trial key, refer to the link in this video's description. Next, let me open the app view file and remove the default code. Add three major code blocks: script, template, and style. Within the script block, I import the timeline component from the Syncfusion ej2 vue layouts package. Next, inside the template block, I add a division element and include the Vue Timeline component. Then I need to add the CSS style reference. So inside the style tag, I import the material theme CSS reference. To add items to the timeline component, I import the item directive and items directive from the Syncfusion Vue layouts package. For easier usage, rename them to item and items respectively. I add the items tag and include 4 item tags inside it. To add content to the items, I set the content property with appropriate values. After that, I add a class to the division element to align the element. Then, inside the style tag, I implement the same class and set the height to 350 pixels, set the width to 520 pixels, along with a suitable margin. I save the file and run the project using the npm run dev command. The timeline component is displayed with items and the provided content. If you want to display additional information on the opposite side, you can use the opposite content property. To demonstrate, I add the opposite content property and set appropriate values for each item. In the timeline component, each item's time is shown on the opposite side of its content. Next, I am going to customize the appearance of the timeline items using the CSS class and .css properties. To display the success status in the first item, I set the .css property to state success. Then I set the CSS class property with the value completed. State success and completed are custom classes, so it is necessary to define the required styles to display the completion status. In the same way, I add the .css and CSS class properties for the next 2 items with appropriate classes. Let me define the styles for the classes. The first and second items display the completion status, and the third item displays the progress status. By default, the timeline component is rendered vertically. To change this, I set the orientation property with the value horizontal. You can also set it to vertical if needed. As you can see, the timeline component is now rendered horizontally. Like orientation, you can use align property to align the content in the timeline component. By default, the align property is set to after, but it can be changed to before, alternate, and alternate reverse. Now I am going to display the content with alternate alignment. So I add the align property and set the value to alternate. I also remove the orientation property to revert the timeline to vertical position for demonstration. Checking now, the content is displayed in the alternate order. To reverse the order of the timeline, I can set the reverse property to true. Now the timeline is rendered in the reverse order. If I want to disable the items that are not reached in the timeline yet, I can enable the disabled property. Notice the delivered item is now disabled. Next, I will show you how to use templates in the Vue Timeline component. For clarity, I retain only 2 items and remove the rest. Now, below the first item, I add a template tag. I set the vslot directive with a value ordered. Inside the template, I define a division element and set a class. Then set the item value. I changed a content property accordingly to use the vslot template ID. Let me modify the CSS styles. Using the same procedure, I change second item as well. Now you can see the timeline component with the defined template. That's how easy it is to create a Vue application, add a Syncfusion Vue Timeline component, and modify it. You can download the example used in this video from the GitHub link shared in the description below. You can also check the link in the description to see if you are eligible for our free community license, which will allow you to access all our Vue components. If you found this video helpful, consider liking it and subscribing to our channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.